The boys stood unmoving just a few feet beyond the entrance, staring at their father as he waved from behind a reinforced glass window. He smiled widely at them, standing on his feet, swaying from side to side. I kneeled down to speak to the boys. "Go ahead," I told them. "I'll bring the chairs." When I walked up to the window, Jose Jr. had already taken up the receiver and was speaking with his father. Jose's head and face were shaved, and he looked strong again, like he had regained the weight he'd lost in the desert. Jose Jr. remained standing at the window, even after I placed a chair behind him. He spoke eagerly with his father about school, about his friends at church. He told his father that he missed him, that it was sad at the house without him. Behind us, the guard stood up from his computer and placed something in a microwave on a countertop next to the desk. The beeping of a keyboard rang out through the room, and I watched the man chew at his mustache as he stood waiting for his meal. On either side of me, I observed the women speaking to men clad in orange, their faces held against the glass. "This is love," one woman said into the receiver. "Things are the same out here," the other woman said softly. "Everything is the same." I looked back at Jose and watched the way he tilted his head as he gazed through the glass, the way he smiled as he listened to his son. I watched the motion of his mouth, the way he spoke and laughed. It was like watching a man on mute, I thought, a man who, despite his proximity, would not be heard even if he was crying out on the other side of the glass, even if he was screaming. After 10 minutes or so, Jose Jr. handed the phone to Diego. Jose smiled warmly as his oldest son told him about soccer, about playing with his brothers in the park. His face grew more serious as Diego spoke with him about his grades, about his youngest brother's health, about what he was doing to help Lupe around the house. At times, Jose stared down at the ground, closing his eyes and rubbing his brow. "Mom is working a lot more," Diego told him. "She gets annoyed with us sometimes." "But she's fine," he said. "She's just tired." Diego set the phone down on the ledge beneath the window. "My dad wants to talk to you," he told me. "Oh," I said. "Sure." I stood and grabbed my chair, moving it closer to the window. I picked up the handset. "Paco, Jose," said to me, smiling. His voice sounded tiny and distant in the receiver. I smiled back. "Jose, brother." Oops, sorry. Lupe came by the coffee shop in the morning on her way back from dropping the boys at school and delivered a packet of letters she had collected from family, friends, neighbors, former employers, and fellow church members. I had arranged to deliver them to the law firm as soon as my shift was over. She handed me the envelope and smiled timidly. I noticed a tinge of apprehension in her gaze, as if she was trying to comprehend the image of me as a lawman, trying to discern in me an old shadow of darkness. "It's been so good of you to help us," she said. I shook my head. "It's nothing. Jose is a friend." I looked away. Lupe glanced toward the door. "I've got to get ready for work," she told me. "I'm picking up shift at the restaurant where Jose used to work." "Qué bien," I said. "Estamos en contacto." She waved goodbye and walked across the courtyard to her car. At the end of my shift, I drove to Elizabeth's office and sat with my engine running in the parking lot. I opened the envelope that contained Jose's letters and began to flip through them. Some were typed, but most were handwritten, many of them in Spanish. They all began with some variation of "to whom it may concern." They referred to Jose as a brother in Christ, a family man, a good father, a responsible husband, a reliable person, always working hard, always giving his best, always offering to help with a smile on his face, always laughing. "To whom this may concern," began one letter, "my name is Brenda Collar. I have lived in the United States of America for over 25 years and am now a proud U.S. citizen. I have known my fellow friend and brother Jose for over 3 years approximately. We congregate at the same church, and we both serve in the ushers department. Jose Martinez has always been such a joy to be around. He is a responsible and caring father, which is projected from his 3 young sons. Jose Martinez is a hard-working man who has never left a task uncompleted. It would be a mistake to let such a hard worker, responsible father, and awesome friend go. Please consider my testimony, and if there are further questions, feel free to contact me. Another man from Jose's church wrote, Jose is a good father, a good husband, and a good employee. He is a good example of a good citizen. He always helps people instead of looking for help. Many friends and family members made an effort to write their letters in a way that echoed the language of official documents. I, Leticia Martinez, declare under penalty of perjury that the following statement is true and correct to the best of my knowledge and recollection. To whom it may concern, I am Leticia Martinez. I am Jose's niece. He has been living in this country for many years. He is a very nice person. He does not drink or smoke or use any drugs. He is a very responsible and hardworking person. I wish that he had a chance to let him stay with his children in this country. Thanks for taking the time to read this letter. To whom it may concern, wrote another man, in the matter of allowing Jose Martinez to stay in the United States of America, I, Pablo G. Martinez, believe Jose M. should be allowed to stay in the country for the following reasons. He is a hard-working man that holds down 2 jobs. He is the head of a household. Without him, his family would struggle very much, both financially and emotionally. He has 3 little boys who need their father in their lives. He is one of the most respectable people I know, and should definitely be allowed to stay in this great country. Lupe wrote in Spanish on lined school paper borrowed from her children. I, Lupe Balderas, declare that Jose Martinez Cruz is my husband since the year 1999. We have 3 boys, aged 15, 10, and 8. We were always a very exemplary family. We would go out when my husband was off work. He was the only one who worked. He had 2 jobs, and his free time was dedicated to us. My husband is an exemplary father and a caring spouse. He doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't use drugs. He only dedicates himself to making his family happy. But now we miss him very much because I, Lupe, cannot take my boys to the park because lately I have been unwell. My husband took my boys to play soccer every Wednesday, and on weekends he dedicated his time to us to eat and go out, and now we miss him. My husband has given 16 years of happiness and love to my sons and me, but we won't return to Mexico because my boys don't know anyone there and they speak very little Spanish, and it's very difficult to adapt to another country when their whole life has been here. They were born here and they are growing here. For us as parents, we want the best for our sons, Diego, Jose Jr., and Vicente. We miss my husband because he was responsible at home. I am his wife, and I love him very much, and I miss him. Diego, Jose Jr., and Vicente miss him. We love you very much. We give hope to God that very soon we will be together because God does not like to see his children separated. Vicente Martinez, Jose's youngest boy, wrote his own name at the top of a letter scrawled in pencil on ruled school paper. There were no spaces between his words, and his writing was riddled with misspellings and backward letters. Hi, Daddy. I love you because you take us to the park and to play soccer. I miss you because you take us to the stores and you take us to go to work and to get money to feed us. The final 2 lines of Vicente's letter were incomprehensible, a jumble of letters that sometimes approximated words and sounds in Spanish. The Spanish words for God, Dios, could be discerned, and perhaps the word for church, iglesia. I miss you very much, Vicente wrote clearly at the end. Te extraño mucho. Jose Jr. had written on 2 half sheets of paper. On one of them he wrote a brief letter addressed to his father, much like that of his younger brother. At the bottom of the message he taped a wallet-sized picture of himself with tattered edges. On the second sheet of paper, Jose Jr. drew his family on a soccer field with frowning faces. The stick figures labeled Mom, Brother, Big Brother. Below it was another drawing, almost identical, except this time the stick figures had smiles on their faces and an extra figure drawn next to them labeled Dad. Diego wrote a letter that continued across several sheets of paper. At 2.5 pages, it was the longest of any in the packet. In its opening paragraphs, Diego seemed to realize that his father would likely not see or read his words, and he did his best to maintain a formal tone. Dear to whom it may concern, the letter began, Hi, I'm Diego Martinez. I am the son of Jose Martinez. I am his oldest son. I am 15 years old. I have two younger brothers. One is 10 and the other is 8. I'm working to keep my brothers happy, to buy them what they want, to keep them happy. Well, my well, my dad Jose is the nicest guy. I know my dad is like my best friend and my father. I treat my dad with so much respect. He's the father any kid would want to have. My mom and my whole family broke down when we saw him in court. On the first court he had, everyone started crying. And the second court, when his friend to work took me and my brothers. I broke down so much when I heard his voice, it got me into so much tears. I miss my dad. He knew how to cheer us up when we were down. He took us to the park on Monday and Wednesday to play soccer with our church friend. He got along with everyone at church. My dad was the coolest person, most nicest, most religious, most caring person, always made my mom happy, always putting a smile in our faces every single day. He's also very smart and very funny. My dad always has a smile on his face, trying to always help people who are in need. How I feel right now about my dad being in jail and seeing him like this makes me really sad, depressed. My father isn't here with us. Everyone that asks me about my dad makes me sad to say he's in jail. My heart kind of stops, pauses, and breaks down on every letter they send him. He was a man with 3 children and 1 woman. Each one of my friends I've had for many years loved my dad because he took us to places like to any place appropriate, to mountains in the west, to parks, to many places in the city. My dad did anything to make us happy. Now my life is depressing, hollow. My dad's not here. Missing place for him here waits. My dad's a very responsible man. When I was little, my dad was always by my side and always will still be by my side. I pray to God that my dad is always okay. I miss my dad so much it's really hard to express and write. I miss you so much, Dad. You always told us to never look back and always look forward. Thanks for always being there for us and never letting us go, Dad. We miss you so much. Just remember, God is always by our side, never letting us go. We all want them to set you free here. Everyone at church and his 2 works misses him a lot. Everyone misses my dad. Nobody wants him to get sent back to Mexico. Everyone's praying for you to let you out safely. And still the same, Jose, we know. Dad, we have a tournament for soccer for church on the 26th of this month. I'll be making goals for you. The goals will be for you. You taught me how to play soccer and told me never to give up, Dad. I'm going to win that trophy for us. I'm training with everything I got to get better each day. Thank you to whoever got the time to read this. I'm sorry it's so long. It's because I really love my dad. We all do, and we're all sad to know he's in jail. Sincerely, his oldest son, Diego Martinez. As I drove... Oh, sorry. That's